And so today from the Vanderbilt University Medical Center, we are joined by Lori Diet and Monique Drago. Lori, Monique, please feel free to tell us a little bit about your background as well as your role within your institution.
Okay, I can start. Thanks, Helen. I'm Lori Diet, and I am a radiologist and also the Vice Chair of Education for Radiology. And for the last year and a half, I've been in the position of Vice President for Continuous Professional Development for the Medical Center. I also have a background in CME that involves the American College of Radiology, in that I chair a commission on publications and lifelong learning, and I've been doing that since 2018. So my career has involved education, relationship building, collaboration. And although I say my career, it's really my calling. I think it's our calling as educators. We have the ability to engage, to impact individuals, healthcare, population health, and society. And this is something that brings me to work every day, being able to have this impact. I'm also really lucky to live in Nashville, which is a really cool city. And we have other CME provider teams in the area as well. And I'd like to highlight Meharry. We're fortunate to have collaborations with Meharry. And on a personal level, I'm lucky that I get to be able to interact with some of the medical students and other folks from Meharry. So now I'd like to turn this over to Monique.
Thank you, Lori. So I'm Monique Drago, and I am the Director for Continuous Professional Development. I'm an instructional designer by training. I've worked for several years with medical associations in the capacity of designing education programming. I have, in my recent 2 years at Vanderbilt, I've been working with Lori and our CPD team to ensure we're following the accreditation standards set out by the ACCME. So I am really, my passion is to make sure that medical education is meaningful and that we are achieving the outcomes that the education is directed for. So that's really, one of the biggest things and the reason that I feel so lucky to be in this space. And I really appreciate you all for having us here and letting us talk about what we do at Vanderbilt University Medical Center.
Thank you so much, Monique and Lori, about sharing a bit about yourselves and your roles within your institutions. Now, going a little bit forward towards your organizations, how would you describe the CME, CPD leadership and governance structure relationships at your school? And if you could expand a little bit on how were these relationships established as well as maintained?
Okay, so I can give a little bit of background here. So first of all, the Vanderbilt University Medical Center and Vanderbilt University are separate organizations. We're very close. We're right next to each other and we coexist. Our office falls under the medical center. Okay, falls under the medical center. And that split happened back in 2016. So we report to the Senior Associate Dean for Health Sciences Education. And our office is called the is the CPD office on purpose, intentionally, as we encompass CME, MOC, but we also have the Educator Development Program under our office, which has a lot of workshops and a lot of other activities related to teaching teachers how to teach and so forth. We also oversee the Academy for Excellence in Education. And there's one other area that we oversee, which is called the Center for Advanced Mobile Healthcare Learning. So it's kind of a big umbrella, and under that umbrella is CME and MOC.
Thank you so much for that. The other thing that SACME CE News readers are really curious about are the various infrastructures that support CME and CPD. And as each organization approaches this slightly differently, would you be able to tell us a little bit more about your specific infrastructure?
Sure, I will take that one. And of course, Lori, jump in at any moment. So we are established. We actually work to support the VUMC departments for their CME and accreditation needs. We are actually, we don't generate a ton of revenue. We do have a small nominal fee that we do charge for activities that are external facing. So nationally, national symposiums and things of that nature that may partner with VUMC departments, we do charge a fee for those. But everything else is supported by VUMC, and our department is funded by VUMC. So internal RSS and courses do not have a fee. They're just supported through the VUMC funding budget. We also, as Lori mentioned, we have several areas under us, and the only unit, the Center for Advanced Mobile Healthcare Learning, CAML, is really the only unit that is self-sufficient as far as funding, because they actually, and that's through grant. They get grant projects and they do a lot of research. And so that they support themselves, but all the other funding sources come directly from VUMC.
Thanks so much, Monique. Now, going a little bit further on that, our members talk about the CME value proposition. What does this mean to you as a CME CPD leader, and how do you utilize this concept to promote CME CPD at your academic medical center?
I can talk about that.
Sure. Thank you so much, Lori.
Sure. Okay, so I mentioned that we are the Office of Continuous Professional Development, and that we made this intentional. So our value proposition is much more than CME. And I think that's important because sometimes when people think about CME, they think about like a checkbox, like it's a compliance thing. And we're much more than that. We help develop educators. We also consider research to be a top priority for our institution. And we are collaborating in that space as well. I wanted to just touch a little bit about relationships, because I think since we have the medical center and we have the university, bridging those relationships is a really important thing that we do. And that I feel like needs to be intentional. Some of it happens organically, but we have regular touch points built into our weeks and days, and collaborations. We have meetings, regular meetings, strategy sessions, educator summits. This is where we come together. Like we'll have a GME one, we'll have one for undergraduate education, and we come together. We do have social events. Our office too has a lot of touch points. When we have a new application and want to go over an activity, we meet with the activity director, with a CME associate. This is a time that we are, talking about the activity, exploring ways to have it happen, and also to measure outcomes. But we're also building relationships in all of this. We've been intentional too. I think communication is such a big part of this. And so we've started to have some town halls with our CME associates and activity directors. They've been virtual, of course. And we just started a new newsletter, a quarterly newsletter that we're sending out from our office. On a personal note, I'm really fortunate to be involved with hands-on teaching. I teach medical students at the in our simulation center. I teach ultrasound hands-on. I teach residents, faculty, and across the board. And so that's crossing, again, bridging VUMC and VU.
Thanks. That's a fantastic example of how that intentional relationship building has really built such a strong foundation for your program. And undoubtedly, that's one of the reasons why your program is doing all the wonderful things that it is. So let's pop on to our next question. Many programs are challenged to access and utilize medical practice and/or hospital data to inform their activity needs assessments, identify desired outcomes, and design appropriate curricula. What success have you had at your institution in terms of promoting data-driven interventions? And Lori, I'll toss this one over to you.
Okay. Yeah, this is definitely a challenge because we have systems that don't talk to each other, right? I mean, we have our EMR, we have our learning might be one place, and then electronic medical records another place. And how do we get at these data? We recognize this as something that we want to build further on. And so we had a CPD strategic session. It was a planning session back in June. And that session was a half day, was at our innovation center. And the goal of it was to further explore how learning can support our institutional goals and outcomes. And so it was really important that we invited all the stakeholders, and we did. We invited informatics, data analytics, members from the quality team, population health, leadership, both in the clinical and education areas. And we came together and really looked at how can we link outcomes? How can we build this further, linking outcomes, learning and outcomes. We did come out of that with a number of ideas, and one that we're going to be piloting shortly is having being involved earlier in the planning of CME activities, having our team partner with other departments, with other offices when they have an idea, and they have that idea. Let's get together. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about what the gap is. Let's talk about how the education should be delivered, and let's talk about outcomes. And so those partnerships are, I think, very important. We are currently in the process of looking at ways to gain access to the data lake that our institution has as well, again, with a look at outcomes.
So it sounds like a lot of the work. Oh, sorry, Monique, go on.
I was just going to piggyback on what Lori said. We currently, we found that we are kind of the last point of contact when it comes to activities. We don't get involved in the planning process, and that's how it's structured. Like everything is autonomous with departments. And so we're trying to make a move to change that. And that's why this strategy session was so important, because it also opened up doors where now I feel like people recognize us, and we're getting, individuals to reach out and say, hey, we're thinking about doing a program on this. And with having our team has so many different skill sets we have, and I can get to use some of my design background to help them build theoretical frameworks for the education and make sure that we are intentional about and meaning that the education is meaningful and that we're going to measure outcomes. And so that's been really important for us. And that's been a change because it's been set in place that we get the activity once it's kind of finalized, and we're looking to be more engaged in the front end of those activities to help make them better suited for measuring outcomes.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like that strategic planning that you did. It kind of draws on that intentional, mindful relationship building that you talked about earlier in our interview is coming into your data sphere and is continuing to build even more opportunities and possibilities here. So even with all of these opportunities and possibilities here, do you have any challenges in this area that you're currently facing that you wish to share?
Yeah, I think there are some challenges, and I don't think that they're unique to us. Honestly, the Holy Grail is outcomes, right? The Holy Grail is data, and that is the challenge as well. And I think that's an area that we are building on. We have had absolutely some successes, and I'm going to be getting into this in a little bit, but we have something called Quiz Time, which is a course that has questions in it. And we do have, with those teams, we do meet with them right away as soon as they have the idea for a quiz, a topic, and we help design and talk about outcomes with the team members. And this has been in place, Quiz Time's been going since about 2016. So, and it does have CME associated with it.
So it sounds like this quiz time, it's a great example of something that was an innovative and successful achievement for your program. Can you tell us a little bit more about this initiative?
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I've been involved from the beginning. And I just like to frame it in, we're all very, very busy healthcare workers, very busy, feeling stretched thin. And if we can come up with ways to integrate learning into the workday rather than always on top of after the workday or whatever, I think we can make a big difference. And so we had an education summit. I came in 2015, April. In August, I was invited to the summit. And the focus was microlearning and how can we integrate learning into the workplace. It was one of these summits, again, kind of similar to our retreat, where different people from different backgrounds were all there, and the right people were in the right room at the right time. We walked out of there with this idea for this mobile app, and it's a web-based app. And by December, so this was August, by December, we had the prototype. Okay, so that was a collaboration between informatics, clinicians and educators with support from the medical center. And my department and also one other department, anesthesiology, so radiology, we were the ones that tested it first. And so it is an app that delivers a question a day. Most quizzes are between 10 and 20 questions, so either 2 weeks or 4 weeks. And you can come, I'll just tell you a little bit, so you can get it via text or via email. And the learning comes to the learner, okay? Instead of having to go to the website, it comes to you. And it's very engaging. It can have images, it can have video, it has a question, you get immediate feedback. And we have used this so many different ways. I could go on. I would just say in 2020, COVID came along. There was new information. I mean, sure, everyone can remember, like, the information was evolving, right? With diagnosis, with treatment. And so we had quiz times on this. We had courses. And it was one of those things that you can pivot pretty quickly. And we had the content expertise to put together these courses so people could right away be learning as we were going along. We've used it for wellness. You might say, how can you use it for wellness? It was the goal of the wellness quizzes was actually to make sure people were aware of resources that are available and could identify, could kind of identify people that might be, getting into some problems or experiencing some burnout or something like that. It wasn't turning us all into psychologists or anything like that. It was kind of to help direct people to the resources. I'll just show you one more example. We had a quiz time. An area that I'm very interested in is ordering CT scans because I'm a radiologist. And we found that a high percentage of orders needed to be revised. And this had to do with contrast, the dye versus no dye. And so we did this education intervention with this focus group and saw a significant improvement in ordering. And it went on for 6 months after. So we've been able to have some real successes, and it's fun to do. Getting these questions, actually people give us the feedback we get is it's fun. It's fun and we learn.
It sounds like it's fantastic, the flexibility that it can do, that just-in-time learning, as well as the quality improvement on something such as ordering exams. That's very interesting. Now, our final question is, tell us about the challenges and opportunities that you will face now and in the next decade ahead. Lori, would you like to go ahead with that one?
Sure. Yeah, I think a big area that is can be a challenge, but is also a great opportunity is interprofessional learning. And trying to increase, we have interprofessional learning now. We have a number of courses and RSSs with our nursing colleagues and others, but we would like to grow this. I think that is the future of healthcare learning. And so the question comes up, joint accreditation. We do not have joint accreditation now, but might that be something in our horizon? So that comes up. Other challenges and opportunities, I think being able to pivot and being able to, adapt to learner styles, potentially individualized learning plans for the future. But thinking ahead and looking back at how fast we were able to pivot, what we were able to do with the pandemic. And so I think, and then technology, technology enhanced education. How do we continue to grow that?
Thank you. Yes, that's definitely a lot to look ahead to the next decade. And now, Monique, one more question for you. I was wondering if you could share a few comments about how your team addresses implementation of new programming.
Sure. As Lori kind of alluded to, we look at the horizon, there's going to be a lot of change. And I think one of the important things is to set the team up for success and to be able to adapt to that change. So it's evident in the things we stated earlier, we approach everything from a collaborative viewpoint. So things that we do as a team, we make decisions as a team, we learn as a team. And so we pretty much every 6 or so weeks, we have a strategy and development session with the entire team. And a few topics we've done for learning and development in the past have been Clifton strengths, change management, and design thinking. And Lori, who's somewhat of an expert in design thinking, kind of led us through kind of giving us as a team the foundation and fundamentals of what design thinking is. And then as a team, we decided that would be a great model to use as we were implementing the standards for integrity and independence that came out recently, the new ones from ACCME. So we took that and we went through all of the phases of design thinking: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. And we created, not only through that, we created a survey of our stakeholders. We created town halls, a communication strategy, and we were able to make sure that every step of the way we were in communication as a team. We took different pieces, and we also made sure that we were in communication with the individuals that on the other end, our stakeholders, like the activity directors and CME associates, would be affected by this. And that process went really well, and we were able to implement the changes, change some policies around it, as well as do a review a few months after the changes and adjust and recalibrate to make sure we were meeting the needs of everybody. And we've decided that this kind of model is a model that we're going to use in the future for any change we make. And so Laura and I continue to work together to make sure we're inclusive and collaborative. And we believe this type of environment and that type of environment helps you overcome any challenges and thrive as a team.
Well, it sounds like the two of you and your institution are certainly going to do that. Thank you so much for joining us for our inaugural interview with the SACME CE Spotlight. And Robert and I really thank you for your time that you've given us, and we're sure that the SACME CE News readers will really enjoy this interview as well. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.